Well, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Here it is, like the 3rd of March, excuse me. Here we are in California, almond pollination. As you can see, the trees are on their way down. We're in petal fall right now. The bees, for the most part, the ones that were alive, held up really well. They're looking pretty good. It's been an exceptionally nice bloom down here in California. We're down a little bit below the Sacramento area. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit today about the things that happened since my last video. So I'd spoke with several beekeepers across the Midwest that I know coming out of winter. And we had already known that kind of across the board we were looking at anywhere between a 10 to 25% loss through the group of guys. We know that when we got down here, there was actually more of a major shortage than we thought there was going to be. We've seen a lot of guys showing up with empty equipment. A lot of bees crashed, was kind of predicting it was going to happen. Looking at the flows that we had last summer and going into winter, and some of the areas in the Midwest weren't really that great. So there was a lot of surplus feeding done and surplus pollen feeding done to bulk the bees up for winter. And we know that through time that's really not the greatest way to keep the bees alive, but it does keep them alive, and it does keep them somewhat healthy, but not really like they should be on their natural foraging through the summertime. So I know that a lot of people are scrambling right now. A lot of scientists and universities are scrambling right now to get samples and to do surveys on the bees. At this point, they're saying that we're anywhere between a 60 to 70% loss across the board in the United States, which that puts us over between 1 and 1.2 million colonies lost as of today, from what I'm understanding and the information that I'm seeing. We do have some real problems, and I think some real legislative changes need to be made. I think we need to get some people involved that are going to help us be sustainable in the future. As of right now, we are not sustainable. The things that we're seeing in the hives, it's not necessarily good. We know that the mites have been a major issue, but we've always had the mites to deal with. I think now we're starting to see a whole nother aspect of what's really happening. And like I said before, I think it's attributed to a lot of factors. I don't think it's just one. I think it's a series of events that have been happening, and that have progressively been getting worse. I really think that, we're trying to get these scientists involved again to do this research, to see what's going on, why we've had such a big crash. I'm all for scientific studies, most definitely. What I'm not for is kicking the same can down the same road like we have done, and we continue to do. There needs to be some real legislative changes. We need to get this conversation started, not only on a local level, a state level, and a federal level. That we don't have enough regulations in our industry that protect our pollinators, and I think that's a major deal. And I think what we're seeing now with this big loss, it's going to be substantially hard for a lot of these beekeeping families to recover from the loss that they had this year. If we're down over 1 million colonies across the United States, it's going to be pretty difficult for these beekeepers to recover. And that brings the question for next year. I mean, if we got beekeepers that can sustainably afford to split their bees and not go after honey crop across the Midwest this year, then to get their bees built back for pollination for 2026. What I'm seeing and the things that I'm hearing and some of the people that I'm talking to is that the availability of the packages that people normally buy to kind of help with their losses are not going to be readily available like they normally are in March and April. So I think that's going to be a big hindrance. And the reason why is because there's just not enough out there to sell. So, you know, that's a major problem. It's going to reset our industry, and it's going to set us back a couple years. And I know it's going to be difficult for a lot of people to get through this. So like I said, I really think that we need some legislative changes. We need to get a conversation started. We need to get some real help and some real answers. Like I said, I think a lot of our issues, I know from just being in this business for 30 years and what I've seen across the Midwest in the areas that we make honey, is that we've lost substantial CRP ground. And the CRP ground, Conservation Reserve Program, in those pieces of ground, you know, they plant clover, alfalfa, really good habitat for the pollinators, our honeybees, to forage on through the summer, which allows them to be able to take in high protein pollens, is what they need to sustain themselves, and good quality feed. So with what we've been losing over the last 10 years has been fairly substantial. So now a lot of the bees across the Midwest are dependent on seed pollination, which they do make some honey on the seed pollination, but you know, our cover crops, as far as our CRP ground, is really essential to the bees. And I know just from talking to a lot of people in the Midwest and where we have our operation in the summertime, that it is substantial, and it's getting more and more difficult for the bees to stay healthy through the whole summertime. So I feel that, like I said, I just can't say enough. You know, it's really tough for the beekeepers to get together as a whole unit, because everybody has their differences and everybody has their own ways of keeping bees. So it's pretty difficult to get a big group of us together to be able to come to the table and agree upon something. And I really feel that needs to change, because if that doesn't change, we're not going to have our pollinators for very much longer. There needs to be, these issues really need to be addressed. So I just wanted to make this short video. You know, I made the last one. I kind of seen what was going to happen, and here we are. You know, here we are in the 2025 pollination with a major shortage on bees. Statistically, they think that we're down over 1 million colonies across the United States, which is pretty devastating. So the recovery process is going to be long. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of help we actually get that's meaningful. And I don't mean help in doing research and coming out 6 months from now, a year from now, and saying that, you know, this was the problem. We got poor nutrition. We got this, we got that. I mean, we're the guys that are in the hives every day. We know. We're well aware of what's been going on. But to actually get somebody to listen, and somebody to really step up to the plate to make some serious changes that are going to continue to help our pollinators and our family farms and businesses be successful, you know, that really remains to be seen. So, you know, it's a difficult situation to keep these critters alive, and it's becoming more and more of an issue every year. And I know a lot of guys feel the same way, and a lot of guys are pretty upset about what's been going on. But we can only do our best, you know, as beekeepers, you know, and the things that we've learned and our experiences and what we've seen. But, you know, there's been a lot of changes in the last, you know, 15, 20 years in this industry that have really not helped us. You know, and now we're going to see a honey shortage across the United States this summer because of what happened this last year. I know we're going to see that, which that's just going to bring more foreign honey into this country, which it's really going to affect our markets even more so. So we have that sitting in the back burner that we know is going to be a major issue, that a lot of us depend on those honey crops and depend on that money out of those honey crops to be able to financially sustain our families and ourselves and our business. And what we're seeing now, it does not look good. So, like I said, we just need to get a conversation started. I mean, we need to get this out there. We really need to get in front of a legislative body that can actually make a difference, whether it's local, federal, state. It just has to happen. I know we're seeing a lot of issues with sprays that we're seeing on the trees and the crops that's majorly affecting the bees. So, it's something that needs to change. I just don't know how collectively as a group we can change that, but we need to try. Because like I said, if we don't, we ain't gonna have pollination pretty soon, because we're not gonna have the bees to pollinate. And I've talked to a lot of growers down here, a lot of our growers, almond growers, and they understand this year that, it was tough for a lot of guys, was really short. A lot of growers generally use 2 colonies to the acre or 1.5 colonies to the acre, and we've seen the growers this year some only get 3/4 of a colony to an acre, and some only got 1. Obviously they weren't too happy about it, but it's the name of the game. I mean, it's a numbers game, and the numbers just aren't there. So, in talking to these farmers, if we don't have some kind of substantial recovery between now and then, it's going to be worse next year. So it's something that we all need to start taking a little bit more seriously, including the beekeepers, which, like I said, I think we need to have this conversation. It needs to get started, and we need to get some real changes made in this industry before it's too late. And so I just wanted to make this video. Thank you guys for watching. You can like, comment. I'm going to do some more videos. But I think, if you just look at the research that's been done so far since the 1st of February, you'll see where we're at right now as an industry, and it doesn't look good for the future at this point. Well, thank you very much.